Welcome to A Heart for Home Education. My name is America, mother to three, homeschooling in a Charlotte Mason and classical way. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite picture books for the Kinderleben age and beyond. Charlotte Mason encouraged us mother teachers to provide our children with only the best of the best materials, including and especially books. While formal education begins at the age of 6 in a Mason home, there is something so precious and sacred about pulling out a beautiful picture book with your Kinderleben age child. But how do we know what is best? How do we know if a book is a living book? Well, a living book has an enduring idea that embodies some aspect of truth, goodness, or beauty. It should be full of rich language and have lifelike, pleasing illustrations in real-world colors. The people should look like people. The colors should be colors found in real life. The storyline should cause us to wonder at God's world and nature, or give children language to relate to some common human experience, or teach a virtue, or simply be a good story. A good living book will capture the attention of children and parents alike. Today, I'm sharing some of our favorites. So Kinderleben means the life of a child, the life of a young child. And so I talked about in my Kinderleben video how we are guarding and protecting those early years and trying to encourage wonder in our children and a love for learning. In that video, I mentioned a Kinderleben favorite read alouds and asked if anyone would like to see that, and people said yes. So I'm going to share my Kinderleben read aloud favorites with you today. Charlotte Mason breaks up knowledge and the study of certain things into the knowledge of God, the knowledge of man, and knowledge of the universe. So that's how I approached organizing this book list, and I hope you enjoy some of our favorite picture books and read alouds for the Kinderleben age and beyond. First up is Knowledge of God. Pick your favorite picture storybook Bible or just the Bible for your child to hear. My Kinderleben age student gets a little bit of both. We primarily just read the Bible, but sometimes we will add in the picture storybook Bible. We really like this storybook Bible. This is by Catherine F. Voss. It is just sort of a summarization, a retelling of the Bible, and she cuts out some of the things that I would still cut out for my little children. Some things they're just not quite ready to hear yet. So she does a good job of cutting out some of those things, and she does a good job of summarizing and paraphrasing. So this is my top pick for a story Bible. But this one does not have very many pictures. So if your child is under the age of 4, then I would still be using a picture storybook Bible. Even if you read out of the regular Bible or read out of this, you can use the pictures from a different storybook Bible. Then we have Little Pilgrim's Progress. We have read several different versions of this, but this is the one I prefer, especially for the art and the storytelling. So this is a beautiful version, and I think any child over the age of 3 or I mean, definitely a 4-year-old would love to hear this story. My 4-year-old, this one keeps him engaged and he loves this story. This is another one that would fall into the Knowledge of God category. This is The Forgotten King. This is by Kenneth Paget and Shay Gregory, and it's illustrated by Stephen Krotz. So this is a story about a kingdom, and it's an allegory for God and his kingdom and how sin has separated from us and clouded our vision of him. And so it is a beautiful book. Up next is Knowledge of Man, and under Knowledge of Man, that would be literature and fables. We read a lot of Aesop's fables for school. We read them just for enjoyment. My children enjoy those stories, but these are our favorite, just really good stories. The Tale of Peter Rabbit, along with Beatrix Potter. We have a whole treasury of Beatrix Potter stories, but this is by far the favorite. I don't know if you can see the tape job that is on this one, but we absolutely adore this story. There is a phenomenal audio version of this story on Spotify and I assume other platforms, but I will try to link that below. But it is a phenomenal retelling with music and sound effects. If this is a beloved treasure for you, then you will also probably enjoy that audiobook. The Three Bears. We really like this version. This is a Little Golden Book classic. This was gifted to my daughter by her aunt. I'm not sure where the original Three Little Bears story is found, but this is a very good telling of that story, and my children and I pretty much have it memorized. The Complete Brambly Hedge. These are beautiful stories, beautiful illustrations, beautiful artwork, very calming and cozy stories. These, my daughter particularly enjoys these stories and following the lives of this mouse, basically village underground. I would recommend this for an older Kinderleben student, or even my daughter is in formal lessons and she still enjoys these. But these may be a little bit long for a younger Kinderleben, so I would wait until about the age of 4 for these. There's so much to look at in the pictures of all of these that even a younger child could spend a lot of time just looking at the pictures and studying them. These two are excellent stories that we love in our house. This is Sylvester and the Magic Pebble by William Steig, and Dr. DeSoto by William Steig as well. This was one of my favorite stories growing up as a child, so I have loved to pass this one on to my children. It is just a phenomenal story. It's just a very, very good and interesting story. Dr. DeSoto is also a very good story and also funny, so my children really enjoy both of these stories. Another branch of Knowledge of Man is moral education. Now, we don't want to be overt with our moral education and moralizing all of the stories that we read to our children. For example, we don't want to pick up the tale of Peter Rabbit and tell our children, now this is, you can see what happens when you disobey. You don't get the things that you want and things go poorly for you and you lose things and it's not pleasing. We don't want to do that. We just want to let the story sit with them and they will take the bits of moral truth that they need. We don't need to do the extra work of moralizing the story. They are perfectly capable of doing that for themselves. Our family's favorite series is the Little House series, and those books do an excellent job of capturing morals without moralizing them. So Laura will do something and she will disobey her parents or begin to tell a lie or be tempted to disobey someone. The story goes through the inner feelings that she's having as she's making those decisions and whether she chooses rightly or wrongly, and then it will always have a consequence if she has chosen wrongly. Those stories are incredible depictions of the inner moral life of a child. We are constantly reading those, listening to those stories, but when my oldest were little, we used the Little House picture book Treasury. This is an excellent introduction to the Ingalls family. It has beautiful illustrations that are reminiscent of the Garth Williams illustrations in the books. So there's the Treasury option. There is also all of these individual books. I will show you them one by one. So these take vignettes from the actual stories in the chapter books and make them into picture books. So usually one of these picture books will be about an entire chapter of the Little House books. Because they are more abridged, they do not cover the same whole wide array of the morals that are in the regular Little House books, but they are still a worthwhile addition to your library. My boys love the Little House stories, but they of course connected with the Almanzo stories, the Farmer Boy stories, so there are a couple of these picture book versions of the Farmer Boy stories. We also love the Billy and Blaze stories. This is about a boy and his pony and all of the adventures that he goes on with his horse, some of the trouble that he gets into, and some of the good things that he does with his horse. This gives a great glimpse into what it's like to take care of an animal, developing a friendship between a human and an animal. These illustrations are beautifully done. They're just black and white sketches, but they are beautiful. These are also great options for emerging readers. There are several in the series. This is just the first one, and they are all excellent stories. Next up is Roxaboxen by Alice McLaren, illustrated by Barbara Cooney. This is an incredible story about a group of neighbors. This one is excellent at portraying the inner life of a child and all of the imaginative play that they engage in. And it's a beautiful glimpse into how their minds are working and what their goals are when they're playing and just how they immerse themselves into their play. So my children really enjoy this one and get a lot of good, inspiring ideas from this book. The illustrations are beautiful, the story is beautiful and gentle and sweet, and I highly recommend this one. This one is longer, so I would say 4 and up would be a good fit for this one. But this is one that my 8-year-old would still enjoy, and I plan to do this one as part of our co-op literature study If you would like to know more about the co-op that I am leading and directing this year, please let me know below and I can create a couple of videos or one video about what that process has been like and which direction we are going. If that interests you, just let me know. Where the Wild Things Are. I know this one has a bit of a mixed audience. Some people really love it. Some people don't understand the value in it. This one is by Maurice Sendak. With my first son, I tried reading this and I didn't get it. I didn't understand why this naughty boy was someone that we should be reading about. But after reading it again with my youngest son, I have learned so much more about what this story means and the storyline of this. So basically, Max starts out as a naughty boy and his mother disciplines him, probably appropriately, goes off in his imagination to the land where the wild things are. He dwells where the wild things are. He dwells and chooses to dwell where the sin is, where that inner monster is. He chooses to dwell there for a little bit, and he has his fun. The wild rumpus starts, and then Max tames all of the wild things. He spends his time with the wild things, and then he tames them, and he begins to rule over them. And once he rules over them and plays with them, he says, this isn't all that I wanted it to be. I want to go home. I want to eat the supper that my mom has made me. And so he travels back home, and the wild things beg him to stay, and he says no. And so he comes back home to find his mom's forgiveness, his bedroom. And to me, this is a picture of repentance and that inner life of a child as they go through ruling over their own spirit and their own sin. So this has become one of my favorite books to read, and my 4-year-old really enjoys this one. So don't forget about this one. Madeline is one of my daughter's favorite books. This one is a precious story. I loved this as a girl myself. One thing I want to note is that I got this as a board book for her when she was little, and recently I realized that it is abridged. Normally books will say that they are abridged. This one, I cannot find it anywhere, but that's something you want to look out for when you are purchasing board books or even just regular books, is to make sure that they are not abridged, because a lot of time modern publishers will take out things, but we want the full version of what the author intended. So that is just a tip that I want to give other mothers, but this one is practically memorized by myself and my daughter. We still read this one, and she is 6 years old. Next up is a newer book, Polly and the Screen Time Overload. This one is a little bit on the nose for my liking, but the ideas in it have really stuck with my children. And with a concept like this, it really does need to be on the nose. It needs to be a story about a child overindulging in screen time. So this is a cute little story about the dangers of overindulging in screen time. This is a book that I picked up at a thrift store, and I think that you can still get it used on maybe Thrift Books or Amazon or something. It is A Big Treasury of Little Animals by Phoebe Dunn. This goes through multiple different stories with multiple different children and different animals, and in each story, each little vignette, it is a child adopting or developing a relationship with an animal. It uses real pictures that were staged clearly for these stories, but they give children a chance to experience life with these various animals, especially if you don't live on a farm. Then it is a beautiful glimpse into what caring for farm animals is like. So these are precious stories and still a favorite with my children. The next up is Seeds and Trees by Brandon Walden. It's a story about how our words produce seeds, and they are either seeds that will grow into flourishing green, beautiful trees that are good for climbing and shade, or they will grow into a thorny, prickly tree that takes over the land. So this is about a prince who sets off on a journey to plant good seeds. And my children really took to this idea. Here's kind of the idea, and this one of course is addressing morals in children and how the way that we use our words can affect others. Blueberries for Sal, a wonderful book for summer, one of my favorite books to read in the summer. This is a delightful story about blueberry picking. However, you might not want to read it before blueberry picking if you have a child who is afraid of bears. You might want to pre-read this if you are going blueberry picking and want to read this really quick before you go, because there are bears in it. They are not scary bears, but they are bears. So if your child is sensitive to that, maybe give it a look over first. They are funny bears, and the bears have personalities of their own, but this is a very cute story that my littles enjoy a lot. The Snowy Day. This is a beautiful story. Ezra Jack Keats is a very gifted author in that he really can enter into that inner life of the child. And the way his quiet, gentle writing in this book just gives me a glimpse into how children think about the world around them, how they see it, how they take it in, how it sits with them. So this is a beautiful story. We always bust this out on a snowy day here in Michigan. Okay, I am going to speed through the next couple of recommendations. So this is The Little House by Virginia Lee Burton. This one takes a glimpse at a house that is built and then all of the changes around the house, and watching a house be built and carrying on for decades and decades, and seeing the difference between when it was built and modern day. The story of Ferdinand. This is a good cross between knowledge of man and knowledge of universe. I think this says a lot about man's relationship with animals. The story about Ping. It is just a delightful story. It is by Marjorie Flack. Also by Marjorie Flack are some of our other favorites. The Angus books, Angus and the Cat, Angus and the Ducks, and we must have it somewhere else, but Angus Lost. They are so delightful, so cute, so funny. They follow a cute little dog named Angus. So all three of these books are very good at taking you into the inner life of an animal, or what we can guess the animal would be thinking. The animals don't talk in these stories, so it's just a realistic depiction of what the animal might be thinking. They are so funny and cute, and I highly recommend these books. This is called Building Our House, and this is by Jonathan Bean. I don't know what it is about this book that just captures my children's attention. They love this story. They love the story of how this little girl's family builds a house and just following the process, watching how it goes. But it is just a beautiful story about how a family builds a house and all of the ups and downs that come with that. Moving on to knowledge of the universe. So these are kind of our nature books. And again, these cross over into the other category. A good book will cross over into all of the categories. The first one is Jeepers the Little Frog. This is about a little boy building a frog pond with his mother and the frog that they find. This is written and illustrated by Marjorie Cooper. It is such a cute book. It goes into the inner life of the child, but also the inner life of the frog. Box Turtle at Long Pond. This follows the life of a turtle living at a pond, a very gentle, sweet story about what real life would be like for a turtle living at a pond. Are the Gardeners by Joanna Gaines and Kids. It tells about how a family learns to and perseveres through all of the trials that come with gardening. This is one of my favorite books. This is The Raft by Jim LaMarche. It follows a boy who stays with his grandmother for the summer, and she is a naturalist and he is from the city, and so she just invites him into this life of nature. It is also pretty long for a picture book, so I would say the upper Kinderleben ages, and this can be enjoyed by children of all ages. I don't know what it is about this book, but my kids love this book. Right around the age of 3 or 4, they can just stare at the pictures in this book, and then we go outside and they are able to identify lots of the tracks in our yards. So this is one that I highly recommend because the children just really enjoy it, and it's a good start to field guides and things like that. Illustrations in this are beautiful, and the children just really like being able to take ownership of studying animal tracks and being able to identify a wide variety of animal tracks. Over and Under the Snow and Up and Down in the Garden. This is by Kate Messner with art by Christopher Silas Neal. Over and Under the Snow is a story about a father and a child out skiing and following some of the things that are under the snow that we can't see. And the same concept with Up in the Garden and Down in the Dirt. This one we always bring out in the spring with the Joanna Gaines book and learn about and try to get excited about our garden. For the kids, it usually works. For me, not so much. But this follows a girl and her grandmother and the process of planting a garden. It goes all the way through the entire year to see what the full year in the life of a garden is like. We cannot have a book list for the early years without poetry. So our favorites are A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson, Eric Carle's Animals, and A Child's Book of Poems. I know this video is for Kinderleben, but I want to rapid fire show you some of my favorite baby books. I Am a Bunny. This is my favorite, number 1. Nothing beats this. Little Blue Truck. This is number 2. This is my second favorite. I Am a Bunny beats it out just by a little bit, but this one I had memorized with our first son. Our youngest had a Little Blue Truck first birthday party. We just love Little Blue Truck. It is darling. Big Red Barn by Margaret Wise Brown. This can definitely be enjoyed by older children as well, 4, 5, 6-year-olds. Darling little illustrations. Cute, gentle story for bedtime. And Found by Sally Lloyd Jones and Yago. Beautiful writing, beautiful pictures, stunning, gentle story to read to your little one. I usually try to gift this at baby showers. Those are our favorite picture books for the Kinderleben age. I hope that you can check these out at your library or add them to your children's birthdays or Christmas lists. These are just treasured books that we have read over and over again in our family, and I wanted to share this goodness with you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this book list. Let me know what else you would like to see on my channel, and I will see you in the next one.